Look, let me just say it. James Williams came home early and found blood. I'm not exaggerating. Not baby blood, thank heavens. But something was off. The smell of turmeric and eucalyptus hit him hard when he opened that $5 million door. And that splash was too joyful for such a tense room. The twins were in the kitchen sink, laughing, butt naked, while Sarah, the maid, hummed something that didn't sound like any nursery rhyme he knew. His face? A cold red wall. You ever see someone angry and confused at the same time? That was James. He barked, "What in God's name are you doing?" like he was calling down thunder. Sarah froze, hands dripping, baby slippery. Silence. But the worst part? Behind all that awkward stillness was the faint smell of iron, the blood of roots. Yeah, I know, crazy, but wait. There's more. See, James wasn't just some stressed single dad with rich people problems. His twins, Emma and Lily, had this weird skin condition. Doctors couldn't fix it. Creams couldn't soothe it. And even the priest he consulted during a sleepless week said, sometimes children carry ancestors' burdens. What does that even mean? But Sarah, our mysterious maid, had been doing something strange in his home. She'd turned his pantry into a potion lab, used the kitchen sink like it was a healing river, and James had just caught her in the middle of what looked like a ritual bath. But here's the kicker. The twins' skin, it was suddenly glowing. Not healthy. Glowing. Like moonlight off cocoa butter. James didn't know it yet, but this wasn't just about rashes anymore. It was about curses, grief, and a woman who once watched her own baby burn from the inside out. You know what hurts the most about secrets? It's not the hiding. It's how loud they scream when silence finally cracks. Sarah stood there shaking and said the quietest thing, "Please let me explain." James wasn't having it. This man built billion-dollar software, for heaven's sake. He liked data, not feelings. But when he yanked Lily from the sink, her rash was gone. Not reduced. Gone. His hand paused midair. And that's when Sarah dropped the bomb. She wasn't just a maid. She was once the pediatric nurse people flew their kids across continents to see. Until one tragic night, during a power outage in her hometown in rural Nigeria, her baby girl died. Allergic reaction. Could have been avoided. But help came late. That guilt, it wrapped around her neck like beads from the dead. So she left everything, burned her degrees, vanished, until she saw James's job posting. Single dad, twin daughters, recently widowed. Something in her cracked. She applied as just a maid, hoping maybe she could save someone else's child if she couldn't save her own. That's where this all gets, well, heavier. She didn't come to work for James, she came to atone, and she had been treating the twins with herbs only whispered about in her village. Ancient things, leaf oils from trees whose names had no English, roots boiled under moonlight. James still wanted to be mad, but how do you get angry at a ghost with healing in her hands? James couldn't sleep. At 3 a.m. he was standing in the pantry staring at Sarah's witch corner. It wasn't witchcraft per se, but it looked like it. Jars of leaves, sketches of human figures with red arrows, dried petals, oils, even okra? Okra! Then he saw the notebook. Not just notes, case studies. Sarah had been documenting the girls like a scientist, tracking skin responses, sleep cycles, even spiritual patterns. One entry read, "Lily's rash flares after visitors. Emma's eases during harmattan wind. Both respond to palm kernel oil during full moons." Curious. Full moons? James scoffed. But the data was airtight. So, was this madness or medicine? A man who built his wealth on code now faced ancient logic. Could two truths exist at once? James thought of firing her, again, but something deep inside whispered, "She sees what you don't. She hears what you fear." You ever feel your ancestors sit up behind you when you're about to make a decision? Yeah, that. James didn't know this yet, But Sarah had been warned never to use the old remedies again. Her grandmother, a bone-thin woman with clouded eyes, had whispered before she died, "If you mix leaf and water again, child, the spirits will come asking." But Sarah did it anyway, not out of rebellion, but desperation. She couldn't lose another child, not even one that wasn't hers. And that night, as she slept on the cold maid's mattress, a sound started humming through the walls. Not music, not wind, a drumbeat, rhythmic, faint, like footsteps of something old, forgotten, but not forgiving. She sat up gasping, heart pounding. It was back. The call of the banished drum, the one that only beats when a healer breaks a sacred silence. Meanwhile, James was downstairs, cradling both twins in the nursery. He stared at their skin under the soft light, smooth, radiant. For the first time in months, they weren't scratching, weren't fussing. Lily was even giggling in her sleep. He should have felt relieved. Instead, he felt watched, like someone was leaning just behind his shoulder. James wasn't spiritual, but something about tonight felt thick, heavy, like the air had roots. He left the nursery door cracked open and tiptoed back to his room. He never noticed Sarah outside in the hallway, her eyes wide and glassy, holding a small calabash bowl, still warm with herbs, trembling in her hands. The next morning, Sarah tried to act normal. She made the twins porridge, laid out their matching sunflower onesies, and avoided James's eyes like they were fire. But while rinsing the wooden spoon, she saw it, a smear of black ash in the sink. Not soot, ash. From the calabash bowl she swore she washed last night. That's when she knew the ancestors were watching. When a healer stirs again after abandoning her post, the veil between the world of the living and the dead begins to thin. They don't knock, they just start leaving clues, and ash in a sink is a warning. Choose carefully. Walked into the kitchen, sipping espresso like his reality hadn't just bent the night before. "Sarah," he said, voice lower than usual, "I need you to show me everything. Like, everything." She blinked. "Why now?" He held up his phone, revealing a photo. His ex-wife's cousin, some Instagram mommy influencer, had visited last week and posted a selfie with the twins. Comment section exploded with one question: what filter makes baby skin look like that? James finally realized the truth wasn't just weird, it was working. Sarah took a deep breath and whispered, "Okay, but once I show you, you can't unsee." She wasn't being dramatic, she was being honest, because the moment he saw the ritual wall, he didn't unsee. So boom, Sarah opened the door behind the pantry. Not even a door, more like a veil covered in dried maize husks and tiny cowrie shells. James stepped in and this was no supply closet. It was a shrine. Herbs hung from ceiling wires like sleeping bats. There was a mat with red chalk lines, and next to it, a shelf holding what looked like baby dolls carved from soapstone. But they weren't dolls. They were memorials, each one named after a child Sarah couldn't save. And yeah, her daughter's was right in the middle. Name scratched into the base, Nena, meaning father's mother. Her child carried ancestral weight before her first tooth even came in.